It's almost like we're selling our game, or we're selling our soul, or we're selling the Springboks.
Rugby doesn't make money. We can produce so many Sias, so many Mapimpis, so many Kobanis.
Yeah.
Again, who's making the decision? I love what the Stormers are doing. I love what the Sharks are doing. I worry about South African rugby. It is a game that we want to take into the future. But the people who are making those decisions, and I will say it, are archaic. You know, they're dinosaurs.
Yeah. Back at it like we never left. Yes, this is Ngobeni Bobo. Some call me Bobs, but today I'm pretty excited. I'm looking forward to having a conversation with one of my favorites, a person who I've known throughout my life, person I've met at school time, although he always used to give me grief about his old school. But we're not going to be talking about that. Who am I talking about? I'm talking about the man who works now as a sports editor at ENCA. He's done some work for SABC Sports, television and radio. I mean, the guy started back in the days, as I mentioned, about over 17 years, 2 decades of really bringing us the sport that we love and talking to us about the sport that we all enjoy every and any time. So, who am I talking about? It's Vata Ngobeni who joins me. And Vata, my guy, are you good?
I'm good, Bobs. I'm good. And you?
Every time I see you, I get these anxieties that take me back to not the best of times. In '97, we first time I ever lost against Queen's College. And you were there to witness it. And just talking to that, I mean, since we were juniors, we fell in love with the sport. We fell in love with sports. I mean, those memories of taking us back to then and to today now, chatting.
Yeah, Bobs, I think for me it even goes back to under 15.
Yes.
And you were still at Dale and Oginga and Samora.
Yeah.
And I remember my first sort of interaction with you guys was literally on the field, and Oginga tried to run me over.
Yeah.
And I was playing at
He's
center.
not the biggest man. But
Yeah.
brave.
Yeah, and I mean, from that day onwards, I think you guys being involved in the game, and then you guys leaving and going to Cape Town and being at Rondebosch, and Queens happened to be at Cape Schools, and we were going to play against you guys.
Yeah, we are hosting that.
Yeah, it was a centenary as well. And I think that the excitement amongst the guys themselves and the fact that it was yourself, Oginga, Samora, that whole Dale thing, the guys were really up for it, up for the game. And we had Leon Erasmus, who had been one of our teachers, who was at Rondebosch at some point. So for us, it was a big thing. It was a big thing. And I think guys just went back to the graveyard days, playing you guys at the graveyard, and they really wanted to put one up on you guys. And it happened. But again, I think it spoke more about what rugby does for people in general. Yeah. Because I think those relationships, we've carried them on into the current day. Yeah. But also the memories, you know, it's not just about playing. It's all the stuff that happens around there. And one cannot, you know, I think one of you guys played without any underwear. You know, but also I think there was Gareth Wright in that team.
Yeah, Gareth Wright, the kicking coach.
Yeah, and I remember speaking about Paul Tsuba. I was asking where he was. So, you know, you remember some of the names on there, and when you see some of the guys, you go back, and again, it's a game of rugby that actually brought us together, even though we still, you know, want to know who's doing what. Yeah. But I think for me, those memories, as schoolboys,
time. I mean, it was one of the ethos that we had as a team and as leaders then, as Samora, us being the co-captains of that side. We always said that we want to create memories that we can talk about to years to come. And for me, it's never been about thing of gloating about it, but it was to make sure that we can have stuff that we are proud of that we did as young people, you know, being so ambitious. And then almost like a full circle, then 2003, straight after the Camp Staldred news headlines comes out, I'm sitting at the press conference. I'm one of the people who's been called to represent and talk on behalf of the Springboks. There you come. Ask me a question. And I'm still sitting back, even today, I'm thinking, Oh, what can I tell my mate? do I tell him what he has to hear? Or I remember I said something like quite casually and I tossed it out like, no, don't believe the hype. You
Yeah.
know, we're here to win the World Cup and or something like that. I mean, your take when you came to that and when you heard about this story and you knew that I was part of it and involved, what was the thing that you wanted to get out of that? And I mean, what was the story? And besides the story, you're thinking around then?
You know, Bose, when you started seeing pictures of that and heard what was going on, for me, the first thing is how dehumanizing it is. I fully appreciate and understand what happens on rugby camps and so on, and what you need to do to make people hard and go through adversity in order for them, you know, when they get the World Cup, understand what it takes to get the pinnacle of the sport. However, I think the way in and manner in which it was done, left us wondering.
Yeah.
And if you go back to that time, you look at someone like yourself, the black guys in the team, and you think, geez, but you've gone through your own passage into manhood. Now you're gonna start all over again. and no one understands how painful it is, you know, physically and emotionally and psychologically. You know, going through our rite of passage as men, and then to go through something like that again that dehumanizes you and takes away a lot from your manhood. But then at the same time, I was like, being stuck in a hole naked. You haven't eaten for a number of days, and I know someone like you will appreciate his chow. You know,
doesn't mind a meal.
You know, So. But I think afterwards, you know, I remember we spoke again at the High Performance Center.
Sure.
And the story I wrote afterwards in the Pretoria News was never about Kamp Staltwright. It was more about your journey.
Yeah.
And that of Ashwin Willemse as well.
Yes.
And again, it was a case of we've got ours was a higher calling into the game.
Yeah.
Because at that stage, obviously transformation was still a dirty word in the room.
Yeah.
And it was about us showing that we just belong in this game as well.
Yeah.
You know, forget Kamp Staltwright. Everyone's going mad about that. Everyone's talking about the upcoming World Cup with Rudolph and who's going to be captain, Joost or Kone, all that stuff. And we forgot the story of the young black kid.
The game.
Who's had to fight and fight just to be recognized in the game. And all I had to do was just take you and Ashwin, and not that you didn't deserve to be there, you deserved to be there, but your story had not been told properly. And mine was just to tell the story and to say, listen, beyond Kamp Staltwright, there's a bigger, you know...
Buy into this.
Yeah, and there's a bigger story to this.
Yeah.
And we're only seeing it more than 20 years later with Rassie and what he's done with the Springboks. So for me, I think we had to, you know, the blood, sweat, and tears had to come from us, from our generation.
Yeah.
For this current generation to start enjoying it, and no one looking at them first as black folk or colored folk or whatever it is. So yeah, those were good days, man. And
it was good days, and which such a nice segue to talk about these good times and these times that are challenging. Our game has grown so much from being professional in '96 to now having to deal with the business side of it. I mean, rugby is a business. What have you sort of taken into or sort of seen it grow over these years? Rugby business, because it is a business now. People are getting paid handsomely.
a lot of money. Bro.
Handsomely.
And I think, you know, I worry about South African rugby.
Yeah.
Because it is a game that we want to take into the future. But the people who are making those decisions, and I will say it, are archaic. You know, they're dinosaurs.
Yeah.
You know, you look at the union presidents, you look at the people that make decisions when it comes to voting. It's people who've been there for 30, 40 years. It's people over the age of 50, 60. You know, and you're saying to them they must
speak.
You're
quite close to that.
And you're saying to them they must speak to the youngster who's 20. The youngster was a teenager, was at school, boy or girl, who's trying to get into the game, But you're also trying to say to those who are not playing the game to come to the stadium to experience the game outside of the four lines. And how do you do that? You engage them through social media. There's so many platforms now where we engage them. I can't see any of the some of the union presidents who are in their 60s and 70s understanding the technicalities of how you engage the younger generation through social media. But more than that as well, understanding how you exploit the commercial rights of rugby in this country. Because of the success that the Springboks have had and the success that our franchises have had, especially since going north, we have not even tapped, I think, into 20% of the potential that those commercial rights can actually get for us. We have not even gone into the Americas. We have not even gone into Asia as well. The game of rugby is growing, not just in Europe. The game of rugby is growing across the world. And I see the All Blacks still being at the forefront of that, even though the results are not as good as those of the Springboks. And for me, the Springboks should be the most talked about team in world rugby, just from what they've achieved in the last, I'd say 8 years. And the stories of those players should be told. You look at our women's team, you look at our sevens team, you look at our junior teams, you look at our schools teams.
Yeah.
You look at rural rugby, you look at varsity rugby. The amount of stories are there that the world will just,
they'll lap it up.
They'll lap it up. And especially in the USA, where the game is growing there as well. And a lot of those people can actually relate to the stories of a lot of the kids and men and women who are involved in the game, whether it's through basketball, American football, or baseball. So I'm very worried. I'm very concerned. I won't even lie to you, Bubs. I'm very concerned that those people that we entrust with the decision making, those who are the custodians of the game, I don't think they have the game's interests at heart. It's more of theirs and the power that they want to wield in the game itself.
How difficult is it to sort of leverage all the success that we've had, and how difficult is it to move away from the traditional way of how we viewed the game, because it's become in a space where it's competing as part of entertainment,
and that's the big one. You've got to entertain people. Yes, we love rugby, but it's got sportainment.
Yes.
It's all the hype, the build up to the game itself. Yes, you've got the game, but what happens at halftime as well. So those things, are part of exploiting your commercial rights. You bring in your commercial partners. And this is where the sponsors become very, very important. And I know that a few years ago, SA Rugby tried to explore the model that UEFA uses around the Champions League, having multiple sponsors. Instead of having 3 or 4 big sponsors, you have multiple sponsors that break up their sponsorship into small portions, but will make up eventually a greater number. Than for asking for 200 million rand from one sponsor is in South Africa is very, very difficult. You've got to go with a global brand now. These multinationals, because they are sitting, and it's either in euros or in US dollars.
In US dollars.
Yeah, the rand is just where it is at the moment. It's going to take. I mean, you're breaking a lot of the companies if you're asking for 200, 300 million rand.
Yeah.
And that's from one. And to add up maybe another 3 or 4 to get to $1 billion or 2 billion. It's not going to happen in the current environment in South Africa. So that's what I'm saying. For me, it's
You're worried.
I'm worried, but also it's important that we open up our minds to the fact that the game has grown bigger than us.
Yes.
And in order for us to be sustainable going forward, we need to make sure that we're at the forefront of exploring new territories, using our game, using our teams, and putting them out there, because I can only imagine what's going to happen if a huge American company comes in, or a company based in China, and they come in and they're sitting with, they can pump in easily 3, 4, 5 billion rand into the game, but also exploit our commercial rights. And that money will filter down into the lower divisions and so on to develop the game. However, what's going to be important is how we leverage your Sharks, Stormers, Bulls, Cheetahs, whether it's in the ULC Challenge and Champions Cup, but also the big one being the Springboks.
Yeah.
You can only imagine playing a test match in China. It might sound crazy. You might think there are no people that will go, but you take a game to the Bird's Nest, put in 100,000 people there.
Oof. That is a different experience altogether.
Becomes a different experience, but the amount of money that will generate it from that is it's. I don't think South Africans or those in charge of the rugby at the moment in South Africa can actually comprehend how far we can actually go.
Talking about that, I mean, to us as just former players, fans, people who are rugby enthusiasts, sporting enthusiasts, every time the word sort of like equity, private owned equities, what is it supposed to mean to us? Because there's a lot of almost like a hold back onto that. It's almost like we're selling our game, or we're selling our soul, or we're selling the Springboks. What, in a way to sort of put it in the layman's terms, or even to understand like private equity in the game, how does that sort of help the game? How does it hinder it? I mean, it's a loaded question, but private equity in the game?
You need equity, without a shadow of a doubt. Rugby doesn't make money. We've got to be brutally honest about that.
Yeah.
And I think we've seen in the past how holding on to sentiment or history has come near breaking the game itself. You look at Western Province.
Sure.
And them holding on to Newlands. I love Newlands. I love it as a stadium. I love the history behind it. But holding on to that stadium would have almost broke Western Province Rugby as we know it. I mean, it went under administration at some point.
True.
You know, and them letting go of that, going to DHL Stadium, and then bringing in an equity partner.
Yes.
Has now, relieved a lot of the pressure. They're getting some of the top players back again. They're able to retain them, and we've seen the brand at the Stormers. You look at what's happened at the Sharks. With their equity partner coming in, they've got almost an entire Springbok team. From 1 to 15, it's Springboks.
People want to come and see that.
And they went on to win the Challenge Cup, and we've seen the stadiums. They're becoming full, and them winning the Challenge Cup, now they're in the Champions Cup. They're playing some of the big boys in World Rugby, and I've got a feeling that something good will come out of that equity deal, and that the Sharks are going to start bringing some silverware. You look at what's happened at the Bulls.
Yeah.
And again, Bobs, I just think about the stadium name changes.
Yes.
At some point, people are fighting about Securicor Loftus and Minota Loftus. People are up in arms. Guys, it's just a stadium. It's just a name.
It is always going to stay Loftus in your head.
Exactly. You look at Ellis Park.
I mean, we should be happy with the fact that they're opening it.
There's money coming in. You're still able to have the stadium functioning. You need money to run a stadium. You look at Ellis Park. We still call it Ellis Park.
Yeah.
But give some acknowledgement to Coca-Cola.
Yes.
That they put in money first and then now to Emirates. Because without them, we'd not be having test match rugby at Ellis Park.
The upkeep of the place, the overheads of
running the stadium,
jobs of having security, having people to maintain it.
So we need to understand that holding on to history is just going to keep us back. We need to embrace equity partners because they are the lifeblood of the game itself. What to me, Bobs, is very, very worrying.
Yeah,
is the equity partners wanting just control and not developing the game. I'm glad to see that what's happening in Durban at the Sharks.
Yes,
it's beyond just the game itself. They rebranded the Sharks brand. And again, they're looking at the entertainment around game day. It's now an experience to go at the Sharks.
Yes,
they want it to be an experience. So they're thinking about, the fans. They're thinking about their stakeholders. But more than anything, they're looking about how they can commercially benefit out of the Sharks brand and out of the rugby itself. And there are many facets to it. I worry that some of our franchises are not of the same mindset.
Let's talk about. It's not even an elephant, but it's a leaping cheetah in the room. Them being in the space that they're in. Am I right or correct to say, doesn't it make it difficult for someone to invest in that? because of maybe not having a sort of a structure where they will be playing in a competition where they'll be playing, or just not having that clarity of where is it that they sort of belong.
And that's where the problem is. And that's where the problem is with the people that are in charge of rugby or the custodians of rugby. Because I cannot fathom the cheaters not being involved in an intercontinental competition. You're sitting with Grey College.
Oh, it's a factory.
That's enough said. I don't want to even talk about Shimla's and CPUT or CUT and what they're doing. You know, that is almost the nursery of South African rugby. And for their franchise not to be playing in some of the top competitions, to me is a sad indictment on the leadership of South African rugby.
We can talk about where we're from. The Eastern Province, the Eastern Cape, border, Eastern Province. I mean,
border is no home. Border is no home. You go back to Basel Canyon, you go back to the history of the clubs. You've got some of the oldest clubs in South African rugby there.
Yeah.
Not just the white clubs, the black clubs.
Yes.
You talk about double swallows and so on.
Yes.
And for rugby to be dying in the way it is down there, for them not to be playing in the premium division of the Currie Cup,
with all of us who were produced from that.
From that is again another sad indictment on the leadership. What's happened at Eastern Province Rugby, for me, is even sadder, because it's people fighting for positions. You know, no one's fighting for the game itself.
Or fighting for that young kid who's got that dream.
I mean,
the next Sia.
We talk about Sia.
The next says Aele.
Imagine how many of them are sitting there. Imagine how many of them are sitting there. Not just in Kabech.
Yeah.
You go to Etuetu, where
Yes.
Makazola comes from.
Yes.
Echolong.
Echolong.
You go to just outside of Ekomane. You know.
Lusikisiki, Mampondweni.
I mean, Ombombi also comes from.
Yeah.
And look what he did.
And
you know,
what he's still gonna.
What he's still doing actually in New Zealand. I mean, we can produce so many Sias, so many Mapimpis, so many Kobanis.
Yeah.
You know, but again, who's making the decision? And for whose interest? And when the interest is not for the game itself, we're going to see what's happening at Border. We're going to see. I'm glad Border's made a turnaround.
Yeah.
But they don't even have a home, Koban.
That is tough.
They don't even have a home.
I mean, I heard that story of Basel Canyon not having posts, and I was thinking back as a junior, we went to go watch our favorite Queenian, Kaya Molotana, playing against, was it the British Irish Lions?
Irish Lions, yeah.
In a wet, muddy Basel Canyon. And I take it back to my father. We played like a warm-up game, just curtain raise, and he was watching Border afterwards. It was those days of the Currie Cup when they used to give you 30 points before the game starts, and we were playing against the Bulls, and I think it was a young Jos van der Westhuizen was still coming through, and my dad just shouting there you could feel the pride, like Border, you know what I mean? And to think that there's those echoes, we might not ever hear them again.
Because those dinosaurs, and I call them dinosaurs. I don't want to use what
was the
Will Carling used.
Yeah, Will Carling
to describe the RFU guys, but it's going to be a distant memory for us, Twan. Because I remember that game. Scott Gibbs was the talk of the town, and John Bentley.
Yes.
And Kaya handled Scott Gibbs.
Yeah, he went to business.
He handled Scott Gibbs that day. It was and where does a kid who's not even at Dale College or Sorbonne or Queen's, who's at some school, some obscure school in somewhere outside of East London, where do they get to go and have an experience where you watch some of the best players in the world playing in your backyard, and that can inspire you to greatness?
It makes it tangible.
Exactly. We don't have that because of decisions made by people that see Border where it is, see Eastern Province where it is, and they want to keep it there. Greek was where it is, and they want to keep them there. They don't want them to succeed. They don't want them to become franchises because it is to the benefit of certain individuals, I'll say, and to the benefit of their pockets to a certain extent, because whatever the money they're making out of this is insignificant to the amount of money that we can make as South African rugby in general. If we accept good equity partners that are in it, not just for the benefit of the game itself on the field, but off the field as well. Because to exploit what's out there, Ngobeni, I believe will be a game changer for South African rugby. And I don't think we've got the people with the heart in South Africa to be able to do that. We've got to go outside.
So when it comes to that, like let's talk about rugby business. And rugby business in South Africa is totally different lay of land because you have to think about all inclusivity, everyone being given a chance, every boy, girl, child a chance to exploit their potential, to find themselves, to become these global citizens. And the sport has given us that. We know what the sport can do and how much it has changed. Nelson Mandela's famous quote. Do we have the rugby business people, the rugby business-minded people to make us become big storied franchises like the Lakers, like the Dallas Cowboys? We talk about the Man Uniteds, the Chelseas. Do we need to go start maybe putting those people in these spaces? Does private equity give us that chance and opportunity to put the right people for the business of the game?
I think we've got guys, very young men and women in this country with a strong business acumen that can take the game forward. I look at Edgar Rathbone at the Bulls.
Yeah.
Young.
Amazing.
The way he thinks about the game and the business side of the game. You've got a young Bandise Maku, former player. He's now gone into the business of rugby. And I think there's so many young men and women in this country that can take the game forward. You've got to allow them to. And I feel as if the dinosaurs are just holding on. The dinosaurs, if they're not in positions as office bearers, those with the money are holding on and controlling, instead of allowing, the acumen that we have, especially amongst the youngsters, to take the game forward. And they should allow that. Control is meaningless if
if it's a dying breed.
Exactly. If you're flogging a dead horse.
Yeah.
And I think, as I said, people like Edgar, people like Obandise are the future of the game. And I think they should be unleashed, and hopefully, a lot more other younger people, even in broadcasting and in sponsorship. Yeah. You look at some of the guys running sponsorship in this country. And I say to myself, Mark Rolls. I don't want to mention too many names and mention the companies and give them free advertising, but guys like that who understand, what's happened. We've lost some good people. A guy like Stuart Marcella at some point was at ABSA.
Yeah.
He's out doing his own business now, running his own business, and that's not even anywhere near sports sponsorship. The guys at EXP have done some wonderful work. Playmakers. There's some wonderful young minds there that I feel some have been lost and some are not being exploited properly. And we should be giving those young people an opportunity because the ideas they have and the way they think about the game beyond what's happening on the field is what is needed. And as I said, the dinosaurs are just keeping us back, man.
Do you think there's an opportunity, let's say, for a consortium of business people who sit around the young people, maybe with that faith that they have in the Eastern Cape, and say, can we start this thing from privately owning the border, getting the border out of where they are, and maybe sort of changing what now has become a place where you can't generate any income for those players. It's hard to sign up those players. It's hard to have all those overheads. Is there an opportunity in rugby where consortiums of business people from the Eastern Cape who want to, because we can't make this private equity about people overseas because of their dollars. I mean, there is people who are making good Tom in South Africa.
There are one, but there's a problem with the Bobs. I don't want anyone from the Eastern Cape being involved in Eastern Province or border. I don't want, because they're driven by heart.
Yeah.
And in this kind of business, the heart is going to lead you down a very dangerous road, slippery one.
Yeah.
You look at what happened to the world's greatest rugby company or something like that.
Yeah.
Mr. Totwane down in
Yes.
His heart is in a good place. He wanted to see them succeed. However, the politics got in the way, mate. You're sitting there with guys who know you. You understand the politics of Eastern Province rugby.
Sure.
You've got to be on a certain side.
You have to choose.
Yeah, and unfortunately...
You can back the wrong horse, huh?
They could not. I mean, you're sitting with some of the biggest car manufacturers down there.
From back in the day.
And not to be able to get a VW, a GM, you've got the Chinese brands now there. Not to get Continental tires, you name them.
Mercedes and
East London. They're all there. Not to be able to get them on board because they understand the politics behind it, and they would hate to tarnish their brands. Get someone from the outside, whether it's from Limpopo, there's enough tomato companies there.
Can get some mangoes, everything.
That have got the money.
Yeah.
Right? But also are not emotionally invested. And will make the right decisions. I just feel we've tried this too many times with people from border or from Eastern Province, and it's failed because at some point they've chosen a side. At some point, their emotions get the better of them making the right decision for the union itself, and I mean, you look at what's happening at border. It's either you're from the one side of the Kha River or from the other side.
Yeah.
I'm from the Transkei side.
Yes.
You
Kalekas and Khabes.
Yeah, good luck to them. And it was just the Tsongas that came to
came through and sort of figured this thing out.
I look at it and I say to myself, if those guys are in charge, the guys in the Transkei, it's only going to be them in charge. And it's a war between them and the guys from Emonti. The East London side. So I'm like, but why does it have to be a battle?
Why does it have to be a line drawn?
A river? Really? We've got far bigger problems. Our border schools teams, Craven teams.
It's a vast area.
Last year, this year in fact, 2024, we had to assist in providing, drinks and so on, and helping the guys get just jackets for Craven Week. Because obviously...
it becomes the player's burden to have made the team, because now you don't have the resources to be there and to feel comfortable that you can compete.
And the very same schools that some people are opposed to in the border region, it's now the old boys of Queen's College and Dale College and Selborne coming together. We're all calling each other, guys, we've got our kids there, but there are other kids from other schools as well. What can we do? Who's doing this? Who's getting jackets? Who's getting caps? Who's getting, their drinks and so on?
Yeah.
And that's what we've got to do. And it's sad, Kobani, that it has come to that, because people are busy fighting politics. Because I want to be president. I want to be treasurer. Really? You don't even have a stadium, man. Man.
You talk about putting the cart in front of the horse. And I mean, I take it back. As a junior player, I felt I was victimized for the fact that my father could afford to take me to Dell College. And because I was going to Dell College, I remember one of the officials sort of mentioning it in passing, but like tongue-in-cheek type of thing, like, you're not part of development. Yes, you might be black by color, but your parents are well off, or you know what I mean. And for me, as a young player who just wanted to play rugby, who knew that this is something that really gave me all the joys I needed as a young boy, who just wanted to go out there and just compete, to be discriminated because of what my folks had put out and where I was, it felt, it was a bitter taste. I mean, there's probably one of the reasons I felt that moving to Western Province for me was going to give me a bit of a fair shake, which was always going to be difficult because, I mean, I'm going to go take someone else's meal over there. But it's hard to struggle when you're at home. It feels much better if you travel. I mean, to that extent, how much of that person coming in from a sort of privileged position to what development, to what transformation is, how much of that sort of like we still hold sort of hovering back on and not giving us a chance to go forward?
And
it's part of politics, I guess.
It's the dinosaur mentality. It's the dinosaurs that gave us transformation and made it a dirty word.
Yeah.
It's the dinosaurs that spoke about development.
Yes.
I think there was a Spoornet.
Yeah, I've been into all of those. Green and gold.
Yeah.
Who was that? Being put together, running into floors, getting tested.
Who was there?
I mean, it was just...
Never saw any white
It was just the brothers.
Right?
It was the brothers. I mean, even to the support of like... I mean, I remember we had to stay in because the ones who were already working and we were the juniors felt that by being called into a Sportnet week, taking a week out of your working paying job to go and do tests to see that if you are fit enough, can you play in this game, and to be given can you pass, given gym programs, getting introduced to like sort of professional lifestyle, which you can't sustain when you go back home because you still got a job. Yeah. You have to go work. And the guys were not pulling a salary for that week because you had to sign off and leave. I mean, there was those kind of challenges. And it is quite, when you have to look at your counterpart and be like, will they be going through this?
The dinosaurs gave us that. And the same dinosaurs we are saying now must take the game forward. The same dinosaurs.
That is...
So one, we need to be serious. My thing is, it's... And I love what Rassi has done.
Yes.
I wish it could be done by every single franchise coach, director of rugby. Because I love what the Stormers are doing. I love what the Sharks are doing. Think about who I haven't mentioned now.
Yeah.
There's intent at the Sharks. There's intent at the Stormers. Sharks have won a URC. Sharks have won a Challenge Cup. What have the others won? Because there's no intent.
Deliberate.
Yeah, there is no intent. Because there, we are still counting numbers. We must call it for what is gone.
In 2024.
In 2024, it is said that, and I thought about it the other day, and I was talking to someone, I'm like, rugby is in such a good place that no one cares.
Winning is the best marketing tool.
If the Springboks finish off with 12 white players on the field, because when they started the game, half the team was black. No one cares, and we don't count because some of the best players in the world are black and they come from the Springboks. Right?
That is the norm.
And then now I watch URC, I'm like, aye, boo. But why is this guy doing this? And you look at a team, one of the teams recently in the URC had 2 black guys. Starting.
2024. I'll say it again.
And then I think it was 5 altogether in the match day
2025 season.
And for me, again, that is where the biggest problem is. The biggest problem is that you got people who are sitting there who do not have the interest of the game at heart. Theirs is their interest. They don't care what benefit it's going to be to South African rugby, what benefit it will be to Springbok rugby. It is about them. And unfortunately, the instances are there. And we are being taken back into the past. We're being taken to a painful past of players like yourself, players like so many players who have been denied the opportunity because they were first looked at as black. And when I say black, it's across the board. I don't say colored or Indian or whatever.
Sure.
You were first looked at as that. And you were first looked at your deficiencies before what you bring. And let's help Ngobeni. Ngobeni can't pass to your left.
Yeah.
Ngobeni can't fetch. A loose forward transformed into a center. You show me how many of those. And I actually enjoyed what you did at Loftus one.
To get you with a little... but
for me, Ngobeni, that is where it is.
Yes.
The dinosaurs. It goes back to the dinosaurs and how our game is going to struggle to go forward. The people who made decisions about all those green squads and development programs and the word transformation and quota. Some of them are still in the room today having to make decisions for what's going to happen in the future.
That's going to be hard to change, right?
Some of the coaches are still coaching today.
Still have that mindset on perspective of what is status.
And imagine that, and for me, I don't think they intentionally do not want black players in their sides or don't want to give them an opportunity.
Blind spots?
But it's a mindset, and you need to change. Transformation is not a color thing. It's a mindset. And Rassi said it wonderfully. It's a mind. You need to change our mindset, because transformation is not just about color. There's gender parity that we need to think about as well. It is what a kid who comes from the low felt,
yes,
who's white, Afrikaans,
maybe less fortunate,
but has not gone to the big school, has not gone to an Affis, has not gone to a Grey or Paul Roos, comes from some obscure school in the low felt there. For that kid to get the same opportunity as well, you got to transform the mind. For you to believe that the Renee Naylor can stay for 17 years in the Springbok team setup and deliver a job. This is a woman who comes from not a so good background.
Yeah.
You know,
lots of challenges,
and is a woman of color
in the Springbok setup.
You got to believe that she can do as good, if not better, job than a white guy who was there, who had gone to a Sachs or Bishops and studied at UCT or Marty's and has a master's in sports psychology, sports science. You got to believe that Renee can do the same thing as well. It's transformation of the mind. So I think the dinosaurs are the ones that are keeping us back. If they can't do that for the game itself, imagine when you talk about equity deals that are worth over 2, 3, 4 billion rand, and you're trying to compete with a New Zealand Rugby Union deal, equity deal, that's in 2, 3 billion US dollars.
Yeah.
And we are what, 18 to the US dollar? So if you equate that, we should be easily going at what, 20 to 30 billion rand? That should be our equity deal, and not 2 or 1.5 billion rand. And you are entrusting the same people to start thinking that way. Who brought us
to where we are?
There's no way it's gone.
You talk about that, you know, for me, I look at the opportunity, 2025, Rugby Women's World Cup, England. Biggest I guess it is one of the biggest rugby business sort of space, London, England, UK. The opportunity of women's rugby and how it can actually help to even spread the game further.
It's massive. I believe women's sport, football, rugby, tennis, you name it, cricket, is the next big frontier when it comes to sport. I think the men's game has almost reached its peak.
Yeah, I mean, we can even nowadays sort of predict what a captain's going to say in the interview. But we haven't had the chance and opportunity to listen to our female athletes and how they see it, how they can now come up with their own cliches.
Look at Banyana. Go for a little bit of therapy. Look at Banyana. They qualify for World Cup, African champions. At the World Cup, go to the round of 16.
Sundowns, dominance.
Sundowns, women win
CAF.
The Champions League. Where's Banyana? Where's Bafana? Where are they? Let's talk cricket. Proteas women team become the first ones to get into a World Cup final.
Twice.
And they do it twice. It took the women before the men could get to a World Cup final. It's certain that the Springbok women's team, with the kind of investment now that Sauro has put behind them, we are going to see something special come out of this team. Give it not 2025 Rugby World Cup, but the next World Cup. I think they're going to be competing right up there with them. Because they're there. You look at even the sevens.
Yeah.
Is a team. They need to get back onto, obviously, the core teams on the seventh circuit. And I think they will do well again. It's about investment, investing in the game itself, investing in the players, and making sure there's a structure. I mean, how can you have one professional women's team in the country?
You say that, and I was thinking to myself, I see the cricket, I see Banyana, I mean, we can talk about the Sundowns, we can talk about the Hollywood tournaments that is a female professional league. Feeders for rugby, for cricket. You think about the biggest co-ed schools would probably produce the most in South Africa when it comes to Springboks and Paul Jim.
Yep.
I mean, you think about those girls. How important is the male mindset too that needs to transform to let the women play?
It's us as men who are holding back the women's game, because we think that they won't be able to attract the crowds,
the numbers.
They won't be attract the sponsors. You've got to be kidding. You know, as I said, it's got to start having a conversation actually with the guys down in Koman, with their headmaster there and so on. And I said, we've got an opportunity. We play at Dale College.
Yes. Kingsbridge is there.
But Kingsbridge is there. They play GHS when we play Dale. Why aren't you doing that for the summer sports? For cricket? You know?
Yeah.
Because we've got the field.
The resources are there.
So when we're playing at Dale, Queen's playing at Dale, then...
And it's a different revenue because it's a different travel.
Yeah, GHS will play against their counterparts, but they'll play them cricket at the Queen's Fields.
Yeah. And
using the junior school, there's enough facilities for that to happen, right? And the same goes for rugby. You start introducing women's rugby, you can frown upon it as much as you want. Again, the dinosaur mentality.
Yeah.
Okay, stuck in the past. We've got to move forward. Life is moving forward. The world is moving forward. And we can't be stuck. So when a Selborne plays a Queen's, Clarendon must play GHS. You start at sevens rugby.
Yes.
With sevens rugby. It's 14 minutes. And you can use some of the top fields.
And I'm even thinking, even at junior level, you can do non-contact touch.
And that is how you bring in women into what we think are our spaces, which are not our spaces.
True.
Right? That's how you bring about inclusivity. Because rugby and cricket has shown us that you've got to start almost at school level.
Yeah.
And that is the pipeline that's feeding rugby and cricket at the moment. Football is a different kettle of fish.
Oh, no.
And that's why they're struggling with the development. But if you can do that, I am almost certain that our women's structures when it comes to sevens and 15s will be so much stronger and so much better. Because a lot of our girls and young women are getting into the game a little bit late. So they don't get to develop their skills at a younger age. This is where the schools come in. Nurture that. This is where the clubs come in. Nurture that and make sure that as the boys progress, the girls progress with them as well. And we're not going to have what we're seeing in England and New Zealand with their 7s and 15s.
Yeah.
We can replicate it here so quickly, so easily, because we've got the numbers, first of all.
Yeah.
We've got the infrastructure, man. I don't care even if there's a field.
There is a field.
It doesn't matter.
No.
It's a field.
That is exactly that. We do have the numbers. We do have the uptake. People are enthusiastic about it. Everyone wants to represent their country. We've got, I guess, the right ingredients to do it.
Look at the amount of people that go to BOK matches, women, BOK matches and URC or Champions and Challenge Cup, screaming. I'm seeing more women screaming and knowing the players, knowing what's actually going on in the field than men. And that should tell you something. And if we don't do something about it, we are slowly killing ourselves. We can blame nobody else. We are killing ourselves.
If you enjoy these thoughts, the way that we conversate, please join, like, subscribe, get involved, keeping it rugby with Ngobeni Popo. And that was Vata Ngobeni.
Thank you, Mhlekazi.